The hero's journey starts with Joseph Campbell. When you tell someone a story, do you plan it out beforehand so that it will sound good? Do you carefully plot what you will say in a certain order? Or does the story seem to tell itself as if you understood the structure of stories by instinct? This is what American mythologist, writer, and professor Joseph Campbell was interested in. Campbell was inspired as a child by Native American culture and artifacts. He spent his life comparing myths and religions from around the world in an attempt to understand people and their fascination with stories. Campbell published numerous books, including The Mythic Image, 1974, and The Hero with a Thousand Faces, 1949. He also wrote The Power of Myth, 1988, with journalist Bill Moyers. Excuse me. Campbell's writing was influenced by many historical figures. Among them were James Joyce, Thomas Mann, Pablo Picasso, Sigmund Freud, and Carl Jung. These writers, artists, and psychologists inspired Campbell's theories. The stage of a hero's story. Campbell's variety of influences made his work important in a number of different fields. In particular, his book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, has inspired many filmmakers. In this book, Campbell studies hundreds of fairy tales, folk tales, and legends in order to discover a common pattern in the structure of stories. Campbell calls this pattern the monomyth. The monomyth is the typical path a story takes across all cultures and religions. It is also known as the hero's journey. The hero's journey has three stages, which are separation, initiation, and return. They offer a way to understand the path of the main character in a story. The journey usually includes a symbolic death and rebirth of the character. The religious idea of cleansing is also important, giving a sense of the character transforming from old to new. This transformation is also known as the character arc. Campbell summarizes the monomythic character journey as follows. A hero leaves the ordinary world and ventures into a region of magic and wonder. There he faces fabulous forces and wins a victory. The hero returns from his adventure with the power to help his fellow man. Within this overall structure, Campbell proposes 17 story stages. They include the call to adventure, the road of trials, temptation, magic flight, and return. During the journey, the character undergoes physical and emotional battles. These struggles work together to bring the hero to a better understanding of his life and place in the world. The birth of the blockbuster. Hollywood filmmaker George Lucas said Campbell's theories influenced his work. Philosopher John Shelton Lawrence wrote that Lucas admired Campbell. Lucas felt that a mythic decline in modern movies left young people without the moral anchor found in the films of his youth, Lawrence wrote. Screenwriter Keith Cunningham wrote that Campbell's influence on Lucas's work caused the birth of the blockbuster mentality in Hollywood. A high concept, high stakes approach to storytelling began. In 1983, Lucas invited Campbell to California to watch his Star Wars trilogy. They discussed the mythical structure used in the films. The conversation led to the PBS television series The Power of Myth, 1988. In the series, Campbell tells journalist Moyers that humans look for meaning in stories that will help them move forward in life. For Campbell, the ancient stories of the past are still important today. This series was eventually published as a book of the same name. The writer's work in film. In the early 1990s, screenwriting author Christopher Vogler studied Campbell's work at the University of Southern California. Vogler was working in Hollywood as a story analyst at the time. He saw connections between the hero's journey and the scripts he was reading. Vogler wrote a short document about how Campbell's work related to Hollywood for himself and his friends. The response was so overwhelming that he turned the document into a book, The Writer's Journey, 2007. It became one of the most successful screenwriting books of all time. The book adapts Campbell's 17-stage monomyth into a 12-stage model for writing the hero's journey in film, a lasting impact on storytelling. Joseph Campbell died more than 25 years ago, but his work is still studied around the world. The next time you tell a story, think about the way you are telling it and why. And if you haven't read Campbell's work, try it and see if you think his ideas were on the mark. There's a good chance that whatever story you're telling is some kind of hero's journey. Luke Skywalker takes the hero's journey in the Star Wars films. Director George Lucas was influenced. Campbell, in 1973, he published several books on mythology. We have an illustration of Campbell's famous hero's journey story structure. And the book, The Power of Myth, Joseph Campbell with Bill Moyer.